Good morning. It's Friday, 10 o'clock, and it's Donna here. Wanted to talk about kefir water today because people have been asking me to go through the whole instruction from beginning to end. So once you get the dried grains in the mail or you go buy them at a health food store, how do you replenish them and how do you make the kefir water? So I'm going to go through that in a minute. First, I just want to show a couple other goodies that I have going. First of all, I went and picked grape leaves yesterday, and you can actually eat grape leaves. You know those stuffed grape leaves that they make at the Mediterranean, and you can get them Mediterranean type restaurants or in a deli. That's all it is a grape leaf. I think they cure it or something, but this is just a fresh grape leaf, and they're really tasty. It's kind of a real tangy flavor, a little lemony kind of. So I just chop them up and add them to my salads for an extra zing, and that's just how I use them. Not all grape leaves taste great. This plant that I have tastes pretty good, really good, and the smaller the leaf, the younger the leaf, the better it is. So I do have another grape plant that I don't care for the leaves, but this one is awesome. So I did that, and I have my crispy nuts that are finished, but they got a little bit too crispy. I found out that my oven actually goes down to 200. I realized that my oven goes down to 200 degrees, so that's okay for dehydrating the nuts. It goes a lot faster than the dehydrator, which is typically at 150 degrees. But I think 200 is low enough. But I made the mistake of leaving the nuts in the oven, and then somebody else, my son, came and turned the oven on for something else, and voila, my nuts got overcooked. The other thing I'm doing, I just happen to have this butternut squash, and I'm going to bake it. I don't know if you've ever peeled butternut squash, but it's not fun at all. It's really hard work, and I just find it very difficult to do. So I just cut my butternut squash in half lengthwise. I scoop out the seeds. I put them on a baking dish, and I put them right in the oven. And then I scoop out the pulp when it's cooked and use the pulp. Now, if you want cute little cubed, butternut squash, then I'm afraid you're going to have to peel it. So that is what I wanted to show you other than the kefir water. So what is kefir water? Kefir water, maybe it's pronounced kefir. Some people say kefir. I say kefir. You can get kefir yogurt, and that's really common in the stores, but the kefir water doesn't have the yogurt in it. It's non-dairy. It's just a liquid, and it's actually made out of these kefir grains. And I'm going to show you what the hydrated grains look like. They're really translucent, and they call them grains just because they look like little grains when you get them dried, but it's not a grain at all. What it is, they're colonies of yeast and lactic acid bacteria. I finally learned what an actual kefir grain is. So that's what it is. And so when you make this drink, you're getting a probiotic rich drink from this good bacteria. They're microorganisms. And basically, probiotics, if you don't know, a lot of people take them over the counter, but if you take it in the form of fermented foods, of which this is one of them, then you're getting the probiotics live, like they're still alive. So it's just that much more rich in nutrients. And they help with digestion, weight management, reducing inflammation in the body, and really, really important for the whole digestive tract and the intestinal system, because we tend to lose the good bacteria in our digestive system from things like chemicals in our foods, so not eating organic or eating too many packaged foods because it's loaded with chemicals and preservatives, which are chemicals. Other things would be like medications or over-the-counter medications like pain relievers. All of that depletes the digestive tract And they say that our digestive tract is like our second brain. So it's really important to the body's function and overall health. And when we deplete it in many different ways, and I'm not even going to get into that, we need to replenish it. And we need to try to avoid those foods, first of all, and those extra pills that people take quite frequently, and replenish it with healthy bacteria. So that is what kefir water is. And now we're going to get into the instruction of how we do it. So I've had these jars actually sitting out on the counter, and this is the first fermentation, and this is complete now. And actually I let it go way too long, because if you taste it, woo, that's very sour, kind of vinegary. I let it go way too long. If you let it go too long, the kefir grains will die. But let's start from the very beginning. You get the grains dried, unless somebody gives you grains, because they multiply. As you make this drink, the grains multiply. Mine seem to be going very slowly, but they do multiply, so you can share them with people. And, you know, if you have too many grains, you can give them away. But you can also buy them dry in a health food store. Our local health food stores sell them. They're quite costly. I think it's like $20 for just one little batch of grains, which basically would fill up half of this half-gallon mason jar. But you can also get them online. So if I think of it, I'll post a link later of where I get them online. A really good price, $10 for that same amount of batch. And so what you do is you get the dried grains, and you need to hydrate them first. And you hydrate them with the same process that you do the first fermentation, but the difference is you don't drink that water after you're done. So you want to go through about 2 cycles of hydration. So you take your grains, you put them in an empty mason jar like this. If you buy 2 sets of the grains, then I would fill the jar all the way up. If you buy 1 set, then just do half a jar. And then the measurement is 1/4 cup of sugar, and I just buy bulk sugar at the health food store, organic cane sugar, but you can also get it at Costco. So it's 1 scoop, 1/4 cup per half of the jar. So for a half gallon, which is the whole jar, it'd be 1/2 cup of sugar. And you just put it in there, and then you fill it. Let's say you get 2 batches of the grains. You put 2 scoops of the sugar, and then you fill it up with filtered water, and then you let it sit on the countertop a good week, okay? And the grains are going to start getting hydrated, and you cover it, okay? So I cover it with a piece of cloth, and then I use the frame, you know, the rim of the mason jar lid, because it is sweet in there and it'll attract those little fruit flies, so you want to keep it covered. So and then you discard the water after the first week, and probably do another batch, and you'll notice the water is still going to be very sweet because the grains aren't really eating the sugar yet. They're not fully ready to produce kefir water. So you go through maybe 2 of those cycles, or even leave it longer than a week. But after a while, you'll start to notice that the grains will eat the sugar in the water, and so the water won't taste sweet anymore. And then you know you've got a batch of kefir water. So once you have your batch of kefir water and your grains are at the bottom, then you want to drain it. So first of all, I'm going to put these hydrated grains, because I strained that from another jar already, and I need my strainer. You don't want to use metal, anything, okay? The metal will kill the good bacteria, and so it kind of defeats the purpose of making it in the first place. So you want to use a plastic strainer. And so what I do is I take the strainer, I put it over one of these Pyrex glass jars, and then I pour the water into it, and the grains pretty much stay at the bottom, but when you get close to the bottom, they will want to come out. And so I use the strainer. And then I'm going to take a funnel and put it in my bottling jar. Now you want to have good quality bottling jars. This is a really good one. You can buy it at the beer making store. And you're going to pour the water in here. Now you can drink this kefir water just like this, okay? It's ready to go. It's rich with probiotics already. It's a little sour for me because I let it go too long, but even without letting it go too long, it is kind of a potent drink. Like if you ever drink kombucha, you know what I mean. It's similar to that. So you do often want to maybe mix in a little fruit juice or something, or coconut water to sweeten it. Also, if you want to do the second fermentation, which is in the bottle, then you need to add more sugar in the form of the fruit juice. And don't use citrus because for some reason the citrus, you'll find a lot of like particles floating around your kefir water, and it's not all that attractive. It's fine to drink, but it's just not, it doesn't look pretty. So here I have a little bit of fruit juice. I have the kefir water. I'm going to fill it up to about here, and then I'm going to cork it. Now I can leave this out on the counter, and it's going to go through the second fermentation. The grains, the bacteria is going to eat the sugar, and in the process it's going to carbonate. So that's why you keep it sealed. Now, when you carbonate and go through the second fermentation, be very careful to burp, which means open the lid twice a day at least, okay? Depends how hot it is outside. If it's really hot out and the weather is warm, then it'll go faster. And we have had a bottle explode, even one of these blue ones, which is a very high quality one. It's very strong glass, made with strong glass, and it exploded. It was like a grenade went off. Actually, it's very scary. I wasn't home, but they thought a grenade had gone off in the house, and there were particles of glass everywhere in this big, great room. So very scary. So don't mess around with that. Just make sure you burp it. Now, when it's nice and fizzy, and you can tell because you're going to pour it, into a glass, and there's going to be a lot of carbonation, then it's ready to go. You don't need to leave it out anymore. And the way you stop the carbonation process is by putting it in the fridge, by cooling it. But even in the fridge, go ahead and burp it, maybe one more time, because it still has a lot of carbonation built up in it extra. So then it's ready to go, and it's very tasty when it's chilled and carbonated. But like I said, you can drink it just without the carbonation after the first ferment if you want. And you don't have to drink it straight. You can mix it just with some juice or coconut water or something like that to kind of sweeten it a little bit. And it just won't have the carbonation. I personally like the carbonation. It's kind of like drinking soda, but a really good soda and a good for you soda. But I like that carbonation like you get with seltzer water and that kind of thing. So that's the process. So basically, now I kind of talked about when you first hydrate the grains. Once your grains are ready to go, then you just keep repeating the process. So see, here I strained off all the liquid. I bottled the liquid in the bottle with some fruit juice. Now I need to replenish this jar. Now I put those grains in a fresh jar, fresh clean jar. If you use soap, be careful to really clean out the soap, or that will mess up with the fermentation as well. And so now I've got my grains in here. Now what I'm going to do is, this is about 3 to 4 heaping tablespoons of grains. And they're, hydrated, so they thicken up when they're hydrated versus the dry ones you get. But this is not quite enough for a whole jar. This, I'm just going to do a half of a jar. And this is that big size, half gallon of mason jar. So that's not quite enough grains. I have enough grains in my other one going that will be enough to fill the whole jar. But for this one, I'm just going to do half. So I'm going to take 1 scoop of the sugar, and actually what I do is put it in this Pyrex. And then I add some boiling water to really mix it in and make sure that it's dissolved. And then I'll add some cold water to that to cool it down, because you don't want to put the boiling water on top of your grains. That'll kill them also. But once you have the sugar dissolved in the hot water, just add some more water, and then you're going to pour the whole thing in there, and then you're going to add more water until it reaches half of the jar. Now, I'm not going to put all water in because I haven't put my sugar water in yet. And then you're done, and then you put the cloth on it and seal it up with the rim of the lid, of the mason jar lid. And now it's ready to go. You just leave it out on the counter, and it'll vary how long you have to leave it out. You just can tell by tasting it and make sure it's not real sweet anymore, because then you know it's eaten up the sugar, and you can smell it. So it'll smell kind of vinegary when it's ready to go. And when it's ready to go, you do the same process all over. You pour off the liquid over a Pyrex and keep the grains inside. Sometimes I reuse the same jar, you know, if it's still pretty clean, but typically then I'll take those grains, put them in a fresh jar, and then add my hot sugar water that's been cooled down a little bit with other water, and then fill it up with water. And so you just keep repeating that. So it can depend, you know, I would say anywhere from about 5 to a couple weeks, leaving it out for the first ferment. And for the second ferment, you know, it usually takes about 5 days to a week also. It just depends on the weather, depends on the grains. Every batch is different for me, and so there is no real time, because I don't really have it down to a science. I just kind of, you know, judge how many grains to use. I don't really measure the grains or anything. So that is the kefir water. Any questions from anyone? Hi, Gabriel. Thank you for joining. Yes, very important about the metal. So I have this big kind of chopstick thing. It's a wooden thing, or you just use a wooden spoon or a plastic spoon to stir my hot water with the sugar. And just don't use any metal. I think that's about it. It's been fun. Thank you for joining, and we'll catch you again on next Friday. Bye, everyone. Have a beautiful week.